I apologize. I forgot that I have to hit a special extra button over here on the YouTube side to go live because I've just been sitting here yapping, talking about all the odds, potentials, where the Calgary Flames will go from this point. But hey, we are live here now. Hopefully, everyone is ready for this show. But we'll get that going. I have to find my elite prospects stuff now. I'm hearing myself repeat in my ears. Hopefully everyone out in the internet land is having a fantastic Tuesday. And hey, I got my bad luck out earlier today. Had Tuesdays and Thursdays are my gym days. And I was getting my pre-workout ready to go to the gym and dropped my shaker bottle, and the bottom of the entire thing broke clean off. So I've gotten all my bad juju out. Whatever happens is not my fault. So we will continue to roll on as we are half an hour, 25 minutes rather, away from the first selection being taken. But as I said before I connected to YouTube, for everyone watching over on Twitch, we are going to be using the Elite Prospects tracker because it is the best combined asset, I think, amalgamating all the experts from every site source available. And we will go into the 2026 draft, and we will talk about this consolidated top ranking. Probably won't go down as far as I would maybe like to ideally, but hey, we'll get all the way down as we go. Because, of course, we're going to start if the Flames do hit that 9.5% chance and go all the way to the top of the draft. You can see the odds over on this side of me. The Flames odds, 9.5% to jump everybody, jump the whole line, get the first kick of the can. And while there had been some controversy about who the first overall would be heading into this season, I have to say everyone after the whole NCAA run watching a little bit more for Lunda, for all of the people who run all these websites, it does seem that Gavin McKenna has become the consensus number one. Let's call it in 25 of 32 draft boards. There are some draft boards that do have Ivar Stenberg as the higher floor, lower ceiling consensus number one draft pick. But if you want the highest ceiling, which I think you have to swing for anytime you're drafting first overall, it has to be Gavin McKenna out of Penn State. 35 games played in the regular season, 51 points. That's nearly a 1.6 points per game if I am doing my math correctly. Around a 1.4. And then obviously doing what he did in the postseason in the NCAA this year and his performance at the Canada U20s have made that spotlight shine even brighter. And hey, he even came back to Medicine Hat to go cheer on the Tigers. Unfortunately, they were unable to win the WHL. But like, this is a guy who has produced, if we want to go all the way back to 2016-17, when he went to the Brick Invitational as part of the British Columbia Junior Canucks. In that tournament, that U11, the Little League World Series of Hockey, he had 11 points in that tournament, and that's not a small number. That Brick Invitational is a tough tournament even at that age group. Talk about when he was an underager representing the South Alberta Hockey Academy, Saha, at the U18 Circle K Classic. In 6 games, puts up 14 points. And then, of course, at the Mem Cup with Medicine Hat, 6 points last year. Has been producing at an elite level everywhere he's played. So you have to think that that will continue and lead him to be the top overall draft pick in this year's draft. Now let's talk about Ivor Stenberg. Ivor Stenberg, the other potential number one pick in a lot of teams' draft lists. Of course, playing against men with Frölunda in Sweden. Of course, always got to put a little bit of extra when it is playing best on best against men across the ocean. He produced 33 points in 43 games as a underager playing against men in the SHL. Of course, how much do you sway how much a 18-year-old producing against men is versus Gavin McKenna, who playing in the NCAA, playing in players up to age 25? How much of that transfers? I think we're going to enter a new era of scouting and analytics to analyze that, what that delta is between junior hockey, the NCAA, and everything else that is happening in hockey these days at this age group. So we'll have to see what the pick is and what teams want. But putting yourself in the top two, you're getting one of the best wingers. You do have a little bit more flexibility with Ivar Stenberg as well, has played on the right side as compared to Gavin McKenna, who has almost extensively been used as a left winger. And then you get into kind of the, if those guys are the 1A, the 1B kind of selections. And these are guys that if it is a Florida Panthers and a few other teams picking in the top 10, you could theoretically see them bouncing up a little bit higher. Of course, I'm talking about the Canadian defenseman Keaton Verhoff, who had a fantastic season as well with the University of North Dakota. 20 points in 36 games as a defenseman is truly something that you don't see very often, especially at this age. The thinking has been for so long that defensemen take just a little bit longer to mature, and that certainly hasn't necessarily been the case with Verhoff. Looking back at his Victoria Royals numbers, his offensive numbers there were great as well. 45 points in 63 games in the Western League. In his U18 season, or his U17 season, of course, playing his U18 season up in North Dakota, or down in North Dakota. Weird to say north and down in the same sentence, but you know, geography. Then, of course, there is the other top tier defenseman in Chase Reed. Allegedly, he's been moving up the Vancouver draft board a little bit more than other defensemen. The Sioux Greyhounds American player out of Chesterfield, Michigan. Hey, if the Flames end up selecting him, you have a couple of Michigan guys on the back end. According to Elite Prospects ranking, he is actually the number 3 prospect, and Craig Button of TSN agrees. However, if you listen to Chris Peters of TSN, or a couple other people, including Chris Peters of Flow Hockey, well, of course, Chris Peters will have the same ranking, same guy, has him ranked as low as 10th, so a guy that has a little bit more variability. Had a good year with Sioux and represented the USA in the World Juniors. 48 points in 45 games in the Western League. Adds on to his 4 points at the World Juniors with a American squad that probably should have done a little bit better than they did. The differences between Verhoff and Reed are, of course, how much do you value that NCAA experience versus playing in the Ontario Hockey League. But Verhoff, I believe, if I remember correctly, the taller of the two, and of course, with that carries a little bit extra weight, a little bit of a heavier player on the back end. So it depends if you want the guy that calibrates to be more of a Hughes type player, or the guy who is going to be a little bit heavier, that Dion Phaneuf, heavy shot, heavy body style. Of course, Verhoff probably has a few other comparables that are a little bit more accurate than Dion, but he's the one that sticks in my head. Then you kind of have the, where do you rate these guys? Like, because there is a lot of people that have seen Caleb Malholtra jumping off draft boards. But I'll put this kind of bracket in. The Viggo Bjork, obviously has been representing Sweden in absolutely everything he can, playing in the SHL. You see him ranked as high as 4 or 5 in some draft boards. And if you consolidate all of his rankings, he has jumped up all the way to 6th place. But then again, you see him ranked as low as 10 in some other draft boards, including as low as 6 by Chris Peters. Playing against men again, that SHL for 42, even though he started in the U20 National League before being elevated. Another guy that's probably not a center at the NHL level, likely going to see him as a winger just due to size. Then you have guys like Tynan Lawrence as well. And then the third D in Carson Carrolls, your other kind of next tier of players. Talking about Lawrence, the Fredericton, New Brunswick native, 6 foot even, has been a center his whole career. But again, there's people concerned that you can't be a center in this league as effectively under 6'1". You aren't getting that leverage, aren't getting that size to push someone out of the face-off dot for Tynan Lawrence. And then talking about Carson Carrolls, like, I don't know if Carson really is the top guy, but playing in Prince George, playing in that Western League, that heavier style, 6'2", around 200 pounds. You see him ranked as high as number 2 by Craig Button, and the 3rd best ranked skater amongst all NA-born skaters, according to the NHL Central Registry. And then you have the top left-handed defenseman, Albert Smits, who may be the best fit for the Calgary Flames if you don't get one of those top 2 guys. Because he is, as I said, a left-handed defenseman. The Flames have lots of depth on the right side, not as much over on the left. Albert Smits being that left-handed defenseman and a guy that has played absolutely everywhere for Latvia. Like, the fact that he went to the Olympics and played in 4 games, can put up 2 points, and being a guy that's only 18 to be a -2 at the Olympic Games on a true top tier team. Well, Latvia top tier, all things considered, has to be consideration to bump him up a few draft boards. Of course, I'm no expert, but Craig Button ranked him 7th, and Daily Faceoff also has him in at 7th, and the 2nd best ranked European skater by the NHL Central Scouts. So we are 13 minutes away from the NHL draft going live with the lottery. Of course, hopefully you guys have this on one of your screens or on your television. Have me on your cell phone or your laptop. Love to see you guys all around here today. Again, apologize, YouTube, for going live a little bit late, but we will have to see where the Flames go. My buddy Mike Gould doing the Flames Nation counter programming. Have to see what he thinks. I might have to throw him on one of my screens. Just get one of the guys who is keeping more of an eye on things throughout minor hockey than I necessarily am able to. I did watch a fair bit as the Flames season wound down. Something else that we have to consider with Tynan Lawrence playing on that Shattuck St. Mary's Dynasty squad before leaving to go to the USHL. Plays 2 years at Shattuck, referred to as Hockey Hogwarts by a lot who do watch that level of play. And I guess I'll also take this time to mention a few other players that are probably on the watch list for a lot of Flames with those later round selections. Of course, the lottery only affecting the first round. But the Flames may have to be in a place to use some of their second round draft capital, and hey, maybe a guy like Blake Coleman, to try and move some of their later first round picks together, because there's a lot of smoke that the Flames are very much interested in the Twins playing in Medicine Hat. Of course, I am talking about Liam and Marcus Ruck. Are they the next coming of the Sedin twins out in Vancouver? I don't believe so. I don't think they have necessarily the high-end skill and vision that both of the Sedins did. But of course, they're still very good, and the fact in the matter for them is, number one, they're both somewhat local, coming out of Soyuz, BC, so probably Canucks fans if they're out of Soyuz, but playing their WHL careers down in Medicine Hat. Playing along the wings with Andrew Basha, who went back to Medicine Hat after a few games with the Wranglers. Getting that time to play together could potentially lead to having a evaluation and a line of players that do quite well and continue their development together. Having a full line coming out of the Western League, potentially going to the Wranglers and coming to the Flames, is kind of a tantalizing prospect. Liam, of course, one of the brothers, ranked according to the consolidated ranking at 35. And then if we go down to 43, Marcus Ruck is available, or that's where he is ranked as well. As my computer decides it wants to freeze up here, as I would love to talk to you through the stats of Liam and Marcus. Of course, let's go to Liam and his performance in the WHL this year. 68 games, over 100 points, 104 points for a draft-eligible player in a WHL that has moved forward from being necessarily as physical as it was as I was growing up, or for those of you who are watching that are a little bit older than me, knowing how the Western League compared to the QMJHL and Ontario was always viewed as the most physical league of the three. It is still physical, but not as much so as in past. But hey, putting up 104, that's video game numbers. His brother Marcus, playing with the Tigers as well, 108. So both of them quite fantastic players. Liam has a little bit more of the scoring touch. Marcus was more the setup man. 21 goals, 87 assists for Marcus. For Liam, 45 goals, 59. Of course, playing alongside Andrew Basha, who only put up 50 points in his 32 games. Interesting things there, of course. We can trace both Liam and Marcus all the way back to that same Brick Invitational tournament, playing in 17-18 with that BC Junior Canucks. They come to the Circle K Classic with Okanagan Hockey Academy, U18. Both of them produced at that level as well. So it will be interesting to see where the Flames end up, as we said, potentially moving down. The lowest they can place is 8th, according to the odds. And I know my mom was saying, oh, those people on the television, they seem to have known where this is going to go. But we have to remind ourselves that likely all they were doing was throwing in the throwing things into the lottery simulator, which I'm going to find a way to put in here. All right, let's get this on the screen here. Let's figure out how to do this. Production on the fly here on the Woodshed Sports Report. Again, thank you so much for joining me here. This that I am about to transition to here is a simulator. That is all it is. It is just taking what is possible. So this is if nothing changes. Of course, the Calgary Flames in 4th. This tank-a-thon predicting the Calgary Flames would draft 4th and select Caleb Malhotra based on their need. But let's hit this sim lottery and let's see. Hey, that's got to be good luck. If this is foreshadowing, I will take that. The Calgary Flames would move up to 1st and select Gavin McKenna. And hey, I think there'd be a lot of people in Toronto pretty happy if they get to jump all the way up and select Ivar Stenberg. Chase Reed jumping down to the Vancouver Canucks. And hey, I think there's a few Canucks fans out there who would be certainly okay with that as this scenario as well. But hey, I'm just going to leave it there. I was going to hit this until the Flames did end up in 1st, but hey, my first simulation that I've run, putting the Flames up in 1st. But this was just updated 5 hours ago, and the prospect ratings updated as well. They're saying that Keaton Verhoff has slid all the way to 5th after being in 3rd a lot of this season. But we are 4 minutes away from the NHL beginning their programming to show us how the ping pong balls fall. Let me see. I know I saw somewhere on social media somebody posted the lotto or the ball numbers that the Flames need. And we'll have to see what does end up happening. And just as we wait for that draft lottery to come, we have heard now that the Calgary Flames will be adding another player to the World Championships, as it sounds like Zach Whitecloud will be heading to Switzerland. So congratulations to Whitecloud and family. Switzerland, a beautiful country, regardless of time of year. And here, the Calgary Flames, I'll throw it on. Close that down so you don't see all of the back end info on here. Let's throw that back up for you. But those are the lotto number, the combinations of numbers that could lead the Flames to win. So 95 of the 1,000 different combinations that could be pulled would lead to the Calgary Flames taking that first overall selection. This coming straight from the Calgary Flames on Twitter. So the fact that the Flames do have that 9.5%, 95% of the numbers that could come out, we'll have to see, because there is, I remember, I don't know who said this, but the Flames have been unlucky in a few drafts. I think in the Matthew Tkachuk draft, in fact, there was the news that the Calgary Flames were one lottery ball away from getting the first overall selection. So We'll get back to this simulation that we did. So hopefully the Calgary Flames do end up selecting first overall. See if anyone has a Yahoo has the tracker. It's not live. So we'll head back to where it is just me on the screen as we continue to wait. A lot of hurry up and wait involved today, as the Calgary Flames and the rest of the NHL look to see what will be the end result. Hopefully you guys are enjoying my thoughts about this, because I've been a big bundle of stress all day today trying to figure out how these Calgary Flames will get to this final where they end up, because there is a chance, I don't think a big chance, that the first overall could be up for trade. I think if someone like the Jets or Florida wind up top, they don't necessarily, I think every team needs a player like Gavin McKenna, but we'll have to see as we head forward here. Of course, them showing the board now on Sportsnet. And there is that magical machine, the ping pong balls jumping around as the Flames hope the numbers bounce in their way. Think you need a lot of magic beans to trade for number 1 overall? I think there are some teams that finished lower than they think that think Gavin McKenna won't be enough of an immediate impact, or Ivor Stenberg, depending on who their draft boards rank, that think if we can get a player that is NHL ready today, they'll take it. I don't think there's a lot. I think it is pretty much just the Florida Panthers and maybe the St. Louis Blues slash New Jersey, like some of those teams that have some pretty long odds. But we'll have to see. And we have to know if Toronto ends up with that first overall pick, social media will be going crazy. The Sedin twins looking at that screen, and looks like there is a lot of 43 Hughes jerseys that have a name bar taped over. Chicago, San Jose being shown in their watch parties, trying to hope that they are the team that jumps and gets selected. And hey, there's Craig Conroy with his picture of the 88-89 Stanley Cup champions in behind him. He's probably sent off his text message to Murray Edwards, just making sure his payment went through. John Buchacross standing beside that magic machine, as I said, determining if the draft lottery falls. So there will be 2 draws. Of course, the odds to win the lottery is 18%. But of course, the Flames technically have a few selections. There are some ways that you can win the lottery and not take the first overall. So that is why the Canucks do have a chance to retain still, despite not winning the lottery. Sean H over on Twitch saying he only wishes we can contribute more tax dollars to the arena. Hey, yeah, let's do it. Let's contribute more tax dollars to keep concerts and professional sports in this city, which do still matter. And of course, they're using last year's number one overall, Matthew Schaefer, to explain the odds. So I'll quiet down and let you guys enjoy this. Matt Martin's kids definitely better at math than me. Just that simple. Oh, that's interesting. Real-time percentages. Showing 5 of the guys that we have discussed. Of course, as I said, Caleb Malholtra, one of the younger guys, but has been shooting up draft boards. Oh, hi, Sam Constantino. Gavin McKenna, the top ranked in North America and in many people's estimations, top ranked or all around. Heading off to Kelowna to train. Interesting. I think he should just train in Calgary because he knows he's going to stay here. I learned to not meet the guy that got kicked out of the bar in the parking lot, is what I would say if I wasn't as media trained as I am or set to make millions of dollars. Um, but of course, everyone knows that was the big controversy this year for Gavin McKenna. And of course, I'm mentioning Connor Bedard, the cousin of Gavin McKenna, who Gavin allegedly didn't even know was his cousin until last year when investigative journalists found that out. So it's not like they were having Thanksgiving dinner together between their families. I heard that through a friend of mine who works for the Western League. It would be kind of interesting to see Chicago win and then have the two distant cousins on the same team. Oh, and they're talking about the conditions. So if Toronto gets anywhere near the lottery, they will get their pick to continue. But of course, I'm hoping for the chaos that leads Toronto to lose their draft pick to the NHL bound Buffalo Sabres. Boo! Gary and Bettman on screen. Of course, they decide to this in the NHL stadium or a studio so that people don't get to boo Gary Bettman in an arena. And yes, of course, as everyone knows, it's moving the draw from behind closed doors into the in front of people. Sean H over on Twitch saying he's such a cutie. I think you might be referring to Gary Bettman, and I might throw up at the back of my mouth a little at that. So, of course, they have their legal representation making sure those ping pong balls are not tampered with. So they are going to load them in numerical order, showing that the numbers are printed and eligible. Why would you take a timeout? This is kind of one of the more important portions to ensure that this is a fair. Oh, as he almost puts 5 back into the box. Okay, like this is shenaniganery of the highest degree. Oh, at least it's picture in picture here on Sportsnet, showing that they are going straight from that briefcase into the tube. I thought if you go fully to a commercial, that ruins all illusions of unbiased ping pong balls. And of course, we don't actually get to see that they're all the same weight. That would have been something if they had put them on a scale to prove, oh, this ping pong ball weighs the exact same as the rest. But we are just sitting and watching this True Green ad. Just watching Gary Bettman stand awkwardly with the technician who's running the draw. Again, Sean over on Twitch saying excited for Toronto. I assume you, like me, are excited for Toronto to drop down the draft order and select 7th overall, and Andrew Huska, our friend, just going to be an absolute agony. Of course, not going to allow us to forget that it is the Avs versus the Wild coming up after this. Will be an interesting series. The 9-6 final in that one. We'll have to see if the goaltenders can turn that series around. Here we go. The potentially most important few minutes for the Calgary Flames as they are inserted into the lotto machine. Machine is started up. So yes, 2 draws. So 15 seconds in between the ping pong balls being drawn. Three, two, one, and the first ball drawn. It is a 7. No one eliminated. However, the Flames' odds do drop, as do Chicago's, and New York's tick up. Clock once again started. Toronto does bump up a little bit as well, as does Seattle. Seattle's odds actually surpassing the Calgary Flames. Next ball drawn. I didn't see what it was. It is a 2. So 7-2. The Flames dropping down to a 6.1. And however, New York jumping up, and as is Seattle. Seattle, the most likely to jump up into that first selection. 10 seconds away. Will it be the Seattle Kraken, the expansion team that was maybe most disadvantaged by the Vegas Golden Knights draft pick? 11, the next number drawn. Let's see what that does to the Calgary Flames. They jump up to 9.1%. So many teams eliminated. Vancouver, 27%. The Flames back up to 9.1%. And Florida eliminated. So the Flames, Toronto, Seattle, Winnipeg, all at 9.1, as well as the San Jose Sharks. We will have to see, do the Flames get to select first overall and get Gavin McKenna? The Flames need this final ball to be number 10 to select first overall. So a single ball for the Flames, 3 for the Canucks, and 2 for the Rangers. Oh my goodness. Oh, just throwing a absolute curveball, throwing to a commercial. Oh, devious. Absolutely gutless by the NHL, making us wait and getting another truly ad in. Reminding everyone, regardless of the results, to please drink responsibly. I'm trying to look and see if number 10 is up there pinging around that draft slot, that input area. I think I did just see number 10 ping out and out of the slot. We'll have to see. And of course, if you're watching in Calgary, you're now getting a how Carney has led entirely to food inflation. And then that Sportsnet ad, and we are back to the draft lottery. Of course, Daniel, you got the Twins and the other Sedin representing Toronto. The Flames need that number 10 to pop out for elation for the Flames, proving that Murray Edwards opening his pocketbook to bring the World Cup has led to the Calgary Flames getting the first overall. 15 seconds. As you see, 1-5-13 lead to Vancouver staying in first. New York Rangers need 9-14. 6 Chicago, 10 Calgary, 12 Toronto, 4 Seattle. And it is number 12, and it is Toronto that will be getting another number 1. Of course, the calls that the draft has been rigged will be loud across the country. Oh boy. So the Flames have the potential still to pick at 6. I am fairly upset. Matt Sedin, of course, just signed yesterday. So you think I'm pretty upset with the result. I'm shocked that I haven't gotten a text from my friend and Leafs fan, or my Leafs fan friend Andrew Huska, who is a massive Leafs fan. The Leafs will get another top talent. The hockey world revolving around Toronto. I don't even want to open social media right now. John Chayka getting rewarded. Spends a year away from the NHL. Gets reinstated to be the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs Hockey Club. And the Toronto sports media will be going nuts. Steve Dangle likely bouncing off the wall. So there is still another drawing, of course, and another commercial break. The one team I did not want to see get that first over selection has got it. Yeah, I hope you guys didn't want to watch the Blue Jays, because it will now just be Rogers Sportsnet, the home of the Toronto Maple Leafs. You don't get to watch the Blue Jays ever again on Sportsnet 1. It'll all just be talking about Gavin McKenna going to Toronto. I'm sure there's some bitterness in both Calgary and Vancouver. The Flames 2 away from getting that first overall draft pick. Of course, after this, the Flames will get to see the draw. If they can jump to second overall, and again, I'm shocked that they didn't prove that the balls were all the same weight. Because, of course, the way you could rig something like this is you have 4 balls that are lighter, more likely to be pulled up. And note, we've gone black on the feed, so we don't know if those ping pong balls were swapped out. So, again, just gonna feed into the conspiracy theories here for me and a lot of other Flames fans. But here is the Calder nominees. Demidov of the Canadiens de Montreal, Matthew Schaefer of the Islanders, and Beckett Seneca of the Anaheim Ducks. You think they would have put the logos somewhere because you're the NHL and you have all those rights, instead of just putting the word mark in behind? But hey, what do I know? Great pick on Beckett Seneca. Has had a miracle. So watch. This second draw, the Leafs will somehow win once again, and we'll have to do a full redraw. So the Flames bump up to a 9.5% Prediction from Sean over on Twitch is Seattle will be next. Anybody above that red line can get, or anyone below the red line will not be able to move into that number 2. The first ball drawn is a number 11. How does that affect the Flames' odds? It drops them slightly, but Washington already eliminated from the draft lottery. Not a good ball for Calgary, as Toronto, once again, their odds have gone up. But hey, if Toronto wins again, it's a redraw, which would be the funniest of all options. For the second ball drawn, eliminates Florida early on and knocks Calgary down all the way to 4.5%. Oh boy, not good for the Calgary Flames. It looks like they will be dropping down to 5th or 6th. But hey, let's get another Toronto number. 3 seconds. I guess that would be kind of the best chance scenario. Have the Flames, by winning too many at home, ruin their tank. Ball number 3 has eliminated the Calgary Flames. The Flames will be selecting 6th. However, we could have a redraw. Toronto's chance of winning is 27%. Come on, let's get the redraw. Let's run it again. Let's prove that this draft was rigged for the Maple Leafs in the first place. Toronto is going to win regardless. I think that would actually be the funniest outcome here. So ball number 12, the last one to be drawn in the last round, will be Toronto once again. Will we have another redraw? That's what you have to hope for as a Flames fan. 2, 10, 12, any of those 3 numbers to redraw it. It is San Jose Sharks. So the Calgary Flames drafting 6th. The Flames, it is just a fantasy. They move to 6th. The Calgary Flames bump down 2 places. They will draft 6th overall. Hoo boy. I am not super happy about that. But Vancouver has to be absolutely gutted. And I don't think this ping pong ball selection is going to put the critics of this process any happier. You've got a team that has been the NHL's push with the San Jose Sharks, of course, with their young teams in San Jose. And of course, Toronto. Couldn't have them be bad once again. The team that brings in all this money. And of course, the story of Macklin Celebrini. He'll get a skilled line mate. I'm a little upset, of course, with 6th if you're using the overall selection by according to elite prospects. If everyone's draft list is the same, that would put the Calgary Flames looking at Tynan Lawrence. It's really is the Flames shooting themselves in the foot once again. That string of wins happening in the Flames home run at near the end of the season who knows where the ping pong balls land if the Flames finish in that bottom three. But hey, the Rangers, ifs and buts are candy and nuts, but the teams ahead of them in Vancouver, Chicago, and the Rangers all move up with them. Sean H in Twitch chat saying it's the biggest fix in 25 years. I'm saying it's the biggest fix since the Connor McDavid draft. Man, oh man, as a Flames fan, I am disappointed to say the least. Again, the Flames miss potentially the opportunity to draft and turn this rebuild into turn this draft from a 3 to 4 year proposition to probably looking more like that 6 or 7 year. Not getting to select the elite talent that they and all of the fan base were hoping for. But that's going to be it for me. We'll talk more about this on the show tomorrow. Of course, as we did this extra show, I am going to be shortening tomorrow's live show down half an hour. We'll probably talk a little bit more about this draft. It is Wild Card Wednesday. I had a few topics to talk about there. We'll probably talk more draft on Fired Up Friday, where we do talk Flames every single week. But again, a disappointing day for Flames fans as the Flames fail to move up and will draft with the 6th overall selection.